George, can I ask you to open the meeting, please?
Whai. Tēnā koutou katoa, nei anō te mihi atu ki a koutou ngā me mō te puari matua o Turangi, nei anō te mihi atu ki a koutou oku hoa. E te atua whakatuwheratia mai ki a mātou te kuaha o te tika o te pono o te mātauranga me te aroha, a mā mātou e whakamuimiti ki tō ingoa tapu ake āmeni.
Kia ora, George. Kia ora tātou. Welcome to yet another online community board meeting for this month. Hope you're all well and fit and free of COVID. We are in this house. I just indicated I do have apologies from Pong. Pong's started his new role this week and he's very busy with his induction into that new role. So he won't be here today, and I do have an apology from Rob for lateness. Other than that, no further apologies. Does anybody else have apologies? Okay, will someone please move and second those apologies for me? Thank you, John. Second, thank you, George. All in favour? Against? Agreed. Any conflicts of interest today? No conflicts of interest, that's great. Just to indicate, following the members' reports, we will move into confidential to approve the minutes of the last confidential part of our meeting. And then following that, if we can stay online for a catch up with Corn regarding the Manawhakahono Arohi, please. Okay, moving right along, I'll take it to that the minutes of the last meeting have been read and ask if someone can please move and second those minutes as a true and correct record. Thank you, George. And John, thank you. All in favour? Yep. Against? Agreed, thank you. Were there any matters arising from those minutes? I didn't have anything. Cool. All right, moving right along. And first 4.1. Bryson, are you there? I did see you before. Oh, yeah, there. Thank you, Bryson. Kia ora, welcome.
Well, yes, so I just wanted to bring back last year we talked about a speed management plan, and then that council was working on the speed management plan. So today we've now completed our draft speed management plan, which hopefully was attached to the agenda item, and coming to you to say that we're going out to consultation on the 14th of March, and that we're kind of asking a couple of questions from you. It's more to gain your feedback more than any sort of formal decision. It's around letting you know that this speed management plan's here, and hopefully you've had a chance to look through it and read it. I'm happy to take any questions on those speed management changes. And I also want to gain your feedback on how to best engage with your community. We're looking to go through a bit of an engagement process at the moment, and try and work out how it's best to engage during this consultation period. So I guess those are two questions that I'll open up to the forum here.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Bryson. It's a very comprehensive report, very, very thorough. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Bryson regarding that speed changes?
Kia ora, through the chair. Bryson, the only question that I had for you was, I don't know if you recall when we were all together last year and we were talking about the fantastic job that you guys were going to do in getting ready for engagement. I just wanted to know, with the engagement detail that you're going to put out to the public, and I realise that's still being worked through, some of that detail, are you going to try and make it as succinct as possible? You know how we were talking about the fact that public get lost in the jargon, And I'm just wondering, when you come to actually producing those documents for public consumption, are we focused on, you know, minimalist type but pointful conversation in those documents, or is it going to be, you know, our quasi council type document? And I'm no disrespect to council, I'm just saying that, you know, with public we have those who want to read a 20-page document, and then you've got those who go 2 pages is enough. Just wondering what that looks like for us.
Yes, so in our consultation sort of thing, we do have a consultation document which is about 22 pages long. It has been through our graphics designer and had a good fresh look to it, so it's a little bit easier to read and a bit easier for the public to digest. There is, and when we actually do the consultation online, if you go online, you can actually select which part you want to actually have consult on. So you don't have to consult on everything. You don't have to go down each list and say, this is my opinion on this, this, and this. Of course you can, but you can just skip to the likes of Turangi and consult on Turangi and just leave it at that. Or you could just jump to Whariora and just consult on Whariora and leave it at that. So that's definitely an option. So we have got, it's easy to guide through the consultation area and just consult or make comments on things you want to make comments on, rather than having to go on everything.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Bryson. And just while I'm at it, I read that document front to back, back to front, and whoever you guys, big ups to you. Yeah, it's very, very thorough, as Clint alluded to. And yeah, I was just blown away by the detail that you've contained in that document. So thank you very much. It's really robust. And if you don't know what's happening, there's something, you're either blind or you just don't understand English. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you very much.
I think, just through the chair, I think what I would suggest as well is, if you talk about the engagement for the public, I think it's a good idea that you've obviously got this plan, but I think the easiest thing for us, if you like, when it comes to social media, etc., is maybe just to have a 1 page of what the speed limits are going to look like around Turangi. Then you'll get the engagement from people. And then if they want to get a bit more depth, then obviously they can go into the plan and obviously submit as well. But I just think to get them to look at it, you're better to start off with that sort of hook, if you like, to have a look at it.
Yep. So Rose has just joined us. She's going to lead our engagement side. So if I don't know how much further she's got on with her engagement plan, but she's working on an engagement plan to try and work out how best to engage with the community. We're even talking about maybe even some going along to the market or some sort of setup in the pedestrian mall, up at a little stand and be able to engage with people face to face on more of a one-on-one, so they actually get an idea of what we're up doing. And I'll leave Rose to fill in the blanks because I probably haven't explained that quite well.
Hi everyone, kia ora koutou. Yeah, so we're just really keen to get your take on what's the best way to engage with the Turangi community. But as you said before, George, is getting a 1-pager on Facebook, if that's something that people pick up and they share and they're really engaged with, I think, yep, we can definitely do that just for Turangi and have those specifics. Also, if you thought attending the markets was maybe a good way to reach a different type of people in the community. Different people go to the markets than what might be on Facebook, but we just really wanted to touch all bases to make sure that we're kind of reaching as many people as possible. I think this is a topic that most people will want to feed into. Maybe the safety hub as well in the mall there, if we attend a couple of days and advertise it that we're going to be there, so people can come and chat to us if they want to have those discussions. But yeah, just really keen to hear your thoughts as a group that, you know, represents the community.
Yeah, I'll just go back to that again. I think you're right. The 1 page is the way to go, whether it's through the social media. You're quite right. From that, you can feed on to the fact that you've got the market. You've got the eyesight with the service centre, but the other 2 things or 2 places I'd probably go if you're going to do just a 1 page is to the Z garage and to the other garage, because you're going to have everybody going into these places and they'll see it.
Awesome. Hadn't thought of the garages and the service stations, so that's awesome. Thank you.
Just one thing with regards to the fatal crashes, you've got Taupo Road and Turangi-Tongariro Road down, so it's the same road. So you might want to look at your stats here just a bit.
Thanks, Donna.
Maybe a stall outside the supermarket too. Most people in Turangi head to the supermarket.
Awesome. Is there a certain day that you'd think would be best, or does it not really matter?
Probably later in the week, Thursdays or Fridays would be ideal, I would think.
Yeah, after paydays.
Yes, thanks, guys. And I certainly agree with the idea of a one pager. That's definitely going to be helpful. Any other comments? Okay, Bryson and Rose, if we've got anything else, I assume we can contact either of you if something's popped up into mind anyway in the meantime.
Yes, I also just want to kind of reinforce that I intend to come back to the next meeting to kind of get this group's formal engagement if they want to formally consult on this. I could bring a paper back to the next meeting and gain that feedback through a process like this. So if you want to do that and formally consult on it as Turangi-Tongariro Community Board, then we can absolutely do that as well.
I think that'd be useful, Bryson. It's always good for the board to put forward, a board opinion as well in anything like this.
Yeah, so have a think about that over the next month, and I'll bring a paper back to this group in the next month's meeting.
Thanks a lot. That's great. All right, I'm going to put the recommendation then, and that is that the board receives the draft speed management plan and the draft consultation document in preparation for consultation. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll let you know. Cool. Okay.
Donna move.
Second.
Do we? John.
Yeah.
Donna and John. Thank you.
Yeah.
All in favour, please. Yep. Against? It's agreed. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Next item is 4.2, and it's the annual plan update. Is that Timmy?
Yes, it is, Timmy. Good afternoon. Now, I don't think...
Welcome.
Thank you very much. I don't think I've had the pleasure of presenting to this committee before. So my name is Tammy. I'm a policy advisor with council. Been here for a couple of years, but just now having the pleasure of meeting your community, TTCB. I wanted to have a quick chat, an update about our annual plan. And I guess before going further, I'll start by giving a quick background to how council plans and therefore how the annual plan fits within that process. This is something that would be useful. Yes, okay. And so based on legislation, councils and all territorial authorities are required to have a 10-year long-term plan. And that long-term plan is then reviewed and renewed every 3 years. So you might recall that about this time last year, some of my colleagues would have come to you with the long-term plan and say we were working on that. And that's a 10-year plan. And that would run from 2021 right through to 2031. And so for each year, the first year of the long-term plan would be year one, essentially, and the second year of the long-term plan was when we would do an annual plan for it. And normally the annual plan is, we will look back at what we said we would do in LTP year two and say, are there any changes? And these changes, are they material or are they significant? Meaning that if we had said we were going to spend 50,000 on a toilet, and we ended up finding out that the budget was going to be 60,000. We would say, yes, that is a change, but is it necessarily material or significant? And if it wasn't, then we would say there was no need to consult on it. And so if we had, for instance, said again with that same toilet that it was going to cost 50,000 in the LTP, and then it turns out it's actually going to cost closer to 500,000, we would say that was a material difference. And therefore, the good and proper thing to do would be to go out and speak to the community. That the things we've said, that there's some changes to what we've signaled. And so that's essentially how the plan works. You do have a 10-year long-term plan, and like think of columns under the long-term plan. You have an annual plan for each of those years. And so we have doing an annual plan for year 2 of our long-term plan now. And the council or the financial year would run normally from 1st of July to 30th of June. And so it would go 2022 to 2023. That's what we are looking at. As part of last year, when we started doing this process, we looked at it and we looked at the things we had planned and said we wanted to do. We looked at if the environment was still the same, if the forecasts we have made were still valid, if things had changed. As we all know, we have the gift that gives on giving, which is COVID. That means that not just that we had lockdowns and projects that delayed to start, but that there's difficulty in sourcing materials. There's difficulty in sourcing labor, but then everything just seems to cost 2 or 3 times as much as we had planned. We had thought they would cost, say, 6 months to a year ago when the long-term plan was being done. And so that suggested to us that we were going to be having material changes. And as part of that, therefore, we decided that we needed to consult, we are required to consult with the community on those material changes. And so the intention for the consultation is that it will start on the 14th of March and run through to 14th of April. Unlike Bryson's document, sadly, it's not a 10-pager. It's actually shaped not to be about 60 or 70 pages. But then that includes appendices and all that as well. Never fear. But one of the things we're working with the community, with our community engagement team and the comms team to do as well, is provide a series of, they said the technical term is collaterals. But these are documents that provide high-level overview, so of the changes in the annual plan and how they will affect Turangi or how they will affect Mangakino, so that for people who are perhaps not interested in some light reading and they want to read the entire document, they can see the collateral and know exactly what's happening or what might be changing or where they are. One of the things we've realized is, like I said, the COVID and the ongoing ever dynamic nature of COVID means that it's hard to predict what the next year will bring for us. But that if it is anything from last year, it's going to require us to be flexible in how we choose which projects we're going to be able to do. And so that's one of the things we've built in the annual plan that is a bit different from previous versions. We know that our annual plan was ambitious, but then Taupo is nothing if not ambitious and pushing boundaries and saying, we want to do good things for our community. And we still think those things need to be done, but we also think that perhaps they don't need to be done right away, or it would be better for them not to be done right away, or else we will risk boiling our pot and, hiking up the prices, competing for scarce resources. And so what that means is that for some of those projects that we've signaled, we know clearly that some we will not be able to do at all. The handwriting is on the wall. In those places, we signaled in the annual plan and we say, this is deferred. But for all that, there is a larger number of things that we're not quite sure how they will fall. And so we say that it comes down to when you're trying to do a toilet and say, do we have concrete? Do we even have contractors for this? And so we've also put in some criteria around how we will be making decisions on the day. We'll be looking at things around whether they fit across the well-beings and they reflect not just economic well-being, but social, environmental, and cultural as well. We'll be looking at whether there is an availability of resources in terms of labor or people to actually do the work, and whether it's good value for money. And these things are evolving and changing rapidly. And so when those decisions are being made, these are the criteria that we are signaling in our annual plan that we'll be using in making those decisions. We want to gauge here from the community their level of comfort around how we will be making those decisions and whether they think those are good or not. Then, as you probably also know, Council has about 10, 12 different service areas, investment, water, solid waste, and all of that we work in. What we are going to be signaling is, for some of those, not every single service area has changed, but some have some changes. And not every single change as well is possible to be talked about. So what we've signaled in the annual plan are what the key projects are. as you know, council does, and as imagine for your board as well, you do a great many things. Some of them are just routine day-to-day things, or they're smaller size projects, but they need to happen. And then some of the big key ones, like say curb and channeling, that are big key projects. So we've taken the approach of signaling in our annual plan, just the big key projects, and talked to them where there are changes in there. And we said for the smaller ones, we will continue to assess them based on those criteria. And so for Turangi, one of the things we're looking at that might be changing is the Crown-funded curb and channeling project that we've now see is probably going to cost more than we received money from council, from the Crown for. And that money, so we've made it clear to the community that this is costing about $4.5 million more, but that money will be spent over the next 2 years. I mean, in terms of the key projects with Turangi, I think that would be the main one. Apart from that, we also have some changes in some of the other work we're doing around council. And we thought it was, rather than going around to the community and talking about many things and small and ongoing consultations, we've wrapped them around the annual plan process. And so we're asking, we're going to be talking to the community about some changes to our fees and charges. We're proposing to standardize, say, entry fees to some of our venues and the recreation centers, and make it clearer for everyone and standardize it across our council venues. In some places, we've had to create an increase. Under solid waste, for example, the government has made increases to the ETS and also our waste minimization levy, which are higher costs that therefore council has to also share and pass on to the users, the service users. Therefore, some of those charges for landfill will go higher than we had initially signaled. But most of the other things are the same, because as part of the LTP, we locked in our funding. We locked in a lot of the fees and charges for 3 years. We thought it was good for people to know what was happening. And so most of those charges are the same, apart from some of the ones I mentioned. And venues and events, some charges have been updated because of COVID. We couldn't predict whether we could do it for what the next year would bring. So we only set it for 1 year at that time, and now it's been done for 3 years. So that's one of the things we're talking about. We want to hear from the community as well, what they think about those charges, how we set them. We've also looked at refreshing our significance and engagement policy. Now, the significance and engagement policy is one of those, the significance and engagement policy is one of those things that policies the council is statutorily mandated to have. It is a policy we must update, and we prepared ours in 2014. It had a slight review in 2016, but this time around we're trying to perhaps sharpen it in a way that we're not necessarily changing all the settings and provisions, but we're trying to make it easily understood by both staff and the community about when a matter is significant and when they can expect to be consulted on it and what form of consultation they can expect. And so that's one of the things we're talking about there. And then the final thing we're talking about is the changes to a slight increase to the targeted rate for town center Taupo management rate, which is, again, a Taupo-centric thing. Businesses and enterprises that operate in Taupo CBD all contribute and pay a fee, a rate that is set up to support town center Taupo, which does some advocacy on their behalf. And they signaled that they would need those prices, that rate to increase by about $18.50. And so that has happened as well. So those are the things. That's at a very high level. That's the quick range of all the various topics that we're hoping to go and talk to the community about as part of our annual plan. Is there anything I could help clarify?
Hey, Timmy, that's really a lot of information. What I would say is, for me, because as a layperson coming into this, I know I'm near the end of my first term, long-term plan and annual plan to me when I first heard this did my head in. I couldn't understand how a 10-year plan was reviewed every 3 years and then you chucked an annual plan in as well. Anyway, I've got my head around that. However, for the community, I think what we've missed here is actually, it's also a capacity issue. I think we need to explain to the community, actually, this is what I found interesting, is we can only do so many projects because we can only, with the manpower we've got, which I believe is around about 70 odd million a year. So if you've got projects to more than that, you're not going to be able to do them, obviously. So capacity says that we just can't do them. That's why some of them are obviously moved forward. And I think if we explain that to people, and the thing is, this time we're talking about COVID, for me, it was like, well, actually, we were in a great position that the government gave us lots of money and we did lots of projects. However, in those situations, we had to move other projects to be able to do these ones. So it's a great position to be in, but I think if you explain it to people, that's the reason we're moving things out. It's not because we don't want to do them, we just don't have the capacity. And I think that's when you'll get people to understand, actually, I get what you're saying. It's a great position to be in. We just have to wait a bit longer, assuming, you know, these projects are going to go like the curb and channeling you're talking about. That's massive for Turangi, but it's turned out to be a lot bigger than we thought. So that's going to have to move on to another year as well.
That is correct. When it is a good problem to have, but by implementing those projects, they take away time, they take away attention, resources, and materials, and therefore something has to give and or be pushed out a bit.
Through the chair, Timmy, thank you very much. That was awesome, and I totally agree with what Councillor Mack has just said. Ultimately, if you come to the community and speak about our capacity, then at least that way people understand, because people have been in a position where they lack that capacity to be able to undertake it. It's when we don't have those conversations with our community that this public outrage starts to bubble up, and you get it on social media. So if you could, if there was an opportunity for us to work in that space that Councillor Mack has just spoken to, I think it would, one, benefit us as local leaders, but it will also, more importantly, benefit our community, and they'll be able to understand, okay, it's not being done right now, but it is going to be done. That's the disconnect that happens with our community and with council. So thank you, Councillor Mack. That was just awesome the way you articulated that. If we could, have that engagement the way that Councillor Mack just, articulated it, it'd be really, really awesome. And again, thank you very much for what you just said. That's a lot of information.
Thank you, George. And thank you very much, Timmy. That was a great explanation from you. And John, that I agree with George. That was great input to clarify thinking. Are there any other questions or comments for Timmy?
Chair, just for myself, kia ora Timmy, my name's Te Takinga. I was just wondering, would we be getting some type of information or paper regarding this, or was it just a verbal update? Just because the amount of information that was shared just didn't probably give an ability for us to actually look into more of a commentary, like the rubbish instance, for instance, because there's a problem in our community with rubbish. But then what is it that we can do about that? So I'm just wondering, would the board be receiving any documentation or paper around the annual plan?
Certainly, we would be providing if the full consultation document out, and when it opens up on the 14th, I guess. I know that the comms team are working through designing it and making the layouts readable now. So as soon as that is done, we could arrange to share that with you. I also believe that the engagement team, the community engagement team, Libby's team, and that Rose is a part of, will also be providing some support to community boards as required to help you with engaging with the process.
Yeah, thank you for that, because I'd find that helpful, because going along to, once we're sharing the information, it's just like, oh, now what was that all about? So for me to recall all that, to share this out would be quite difficult. So really looking forward to having that documented for us, Chair.
Kia ora, Te Takinga. I completely agree with you. I'm wondering if it's probably something we might require a workshop on as time goes on and when the full report comes out.
Libby, did you have anything to share about the support that the community development team was?
Yeah, kia ora koutou. Just through the chair, just really to back up what Tammy was saying, and there's a bit of a theme, a bit of a pattern coming through the conversation in the last couple of items around engagement. And it's essentially the technical, mechanical stuff that lots of us don't understand, and making it something that you chat to people when you're having a barbecue with your friends. How will we actually talk about it in that way? So just as Tammy was talking about, we're actually going to pull out 1 pages from the annual plan for every community around the district, and also for those iwi hapu groups as well, that sort of says, that explains what does this mean for me. So you'll have that as a tool, but we'll also support you so that you're not out cold just talking to your community whānau hapu iwi about something that you actually might not know anything about, which is okay because there's a lot going on. But we'll provide that, and we'll also be in touch with yourselves and groups around across the motu, really. So the residents, ratepayers groups as well, so that they understand it. So, and it's really breaking it down to, these are the projects that we'll be doing in the coming year. And these are the things that we'd like your feedback on. This is what they mean for you in a real kind of everyday sense. So hopefully that will help. But obviously happy to support or take on any feedback if there's something that we've missed or something that we need. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Libby. Thank you for that. Well, if there are no further comments or questions, I will
You've muted yourself, Clint.
Oh, sorry. I just had to type that recommendation on my iPad, which went black on me. Yes, so I'll put the recommendation now, provided there's no more comment or questions. Okay, the recommendation is that we receive the update on the annual plan. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Thank you, George. Moved. Second. Thank you, John. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? It's agreed. Thank you very much, Tammy, and others who contributed.
Thank you.
And moving right along, it's Jason, please, on the monthly update. Welcome, Jason.
Hey, I'm just laughing at my over there on the corner. Because I do actually have a little presentation with some visuals, etc.
Excuse me, sorry, Clint. I think you've jumped ahead.
Yeah, don't we have Peter in between this?
Sorry, Jason. Sorry, everybody.
Right.
I did dump you, Peter. My apologies. You are quite right. It's 4.3, Peter, and the update on the revitalisation program. I'll come back to you, Jason. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair and board members. I appreciate the time that you've given me to update you on the revitalisation project. But before we go into the report that's been added to the agenda, I just want to quickly just inform you that yesterday afternoon, the contractor has contacted me. There was an incident that occurred in one of the streets. A community member was walking yesterday, and she tripped over one of the string lines. They are busy with an investigation of what happened. And as soon as I get the full report of what happened and all of that, I will circulate it to all the board members. And as soon as I get the details of who the person is and all of that, I have spoken with management, and they will then send through flowers, and I will also go and check up on the health and everything of this community member. I am going down there tomorrow, so then hopefully I'll get all the details and I would share it with everybody. We can go through the agenda. It's just an update on package 2 and package 3. So as I'm sure most of you have read through the update, package 2, we are on the one half of each grove is completed. They are currently busy with the other half of Ria Grove, Maratoa Grove, and Hera Groves. They are also going through the snag lists that's been drawn up and fixing up all the issues that I've picked up. They are doing the weed spraying, as I said in the previous meeting. And I think, as you saw, they have done the mulch and compost around each and every tree base of the planted trees. I've just added in some photos there for you in Tarifa Place. The berms and everything is looking much neater now as to what it was looking in package 1. We've changed a whole lot of things, and we've made some. We've just changed everything. Then Maratoa Grove, there's some photos there for you as well. They completed with the footpaths. They're doing the curb and the driveway pourings now. In Ria Grove, the curbs and the driveways are being poured, and the berms are being topsoiled and grass seeded, and as well in Hera Grove. Then, as you would have seen in Turangi-Tongariro Road, they have done the curb and channel there. They boxed it and did it, and we weren't happy with the levels and the way it looked. So I'm sure you would have seen that they had to go and break it out and redo it. And that's all on the contractor's cost. They taking that, and they said they'll go and fix it, and I think it looks much neater now. Then the last photo there was just the newly planted trees that I've added in there. Then on package 3, PKV, the tree works guys have started in Te Whakaaro Street and Noni Street. They've removed all the trees in there already. I've just added in the location and street maps for you to see which trees we're going to remove. So Te Whakaaro is finished with the tree removal, and in Noni Street, they've done the cutting of the road and the berms and everything. They're busy removing the berms. The next one that we're going to go in 2 weeks' time is Raukura Street. We'll start in that street as well. That's the end of my update. I don't know if anybody's got any questions.
Can I just thank you for the Turangi-Tongariro Road outside of the hydro, which has been my pet project one, which is the smallest piece of road ever, but it just makes the town centre look so much better. Can I just ask as well, how are we going with people and the trees? Obviously, I don't believe we're getting any pushback now with this, because I'm quite surprised now we're actually, I believe, on the opposite end now, where people are actually wanting the big trees removed and smaller trees put in. Are you having any problems?
No, so far in each and every street that we go in and we're marking the trees, all the residents just want to know when we're going to remove the trees, and when and where they can go and vote for the trees they want planted in the streets. There's actually a lot of residents that's contacted me from packages 5 that wants the trees removed right now as well, due to service issues or curbing or whatever issues. But and then I've got a few service requests of people asking when are we going to start planting trees again. And I'm just responding, as we mentioned in the previous meetings, we should start replanting trees. I think it was in April. Then we'll start carrying on with the trees.
Cool, thank you. And just to add to that, obviously the cost of this is way more than we thought. That's fine. There's nothing we can do about that. What I do want to know, and this will probably be more from council actually, is that when this project's finished, and I know it's not going to be for a little while now, are we putting something in place to then look at the rest of the curb and channeling in Turangi? Because we've worked out here that this was really bad, obviously. We're talking 37 years worth of budget just for the 6.5 million. So I don't want to see when we get to the end of level 5 that we then just stop. Can we have a look at it and actually see going forward? I know it's a few years, but we have a plan in place to replace the rest of it.
Do you want me to respond to that, Councillor?
Please.
Yeah, so obviously that's probably a long-term plan conversation. Certainly our engineers will, if that's the direction from here, we'll certainly build that into our planning.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Peter, please?
I tautoko the kōrero chair from Councillor Mack, that we can't just leave half of our town in with curbing and channeling that looks to standard and then the rest is not. So definitely support that notion.
I also support that notion, and definitely something we need to look at Thank you. Both ones. Okay. Then there be no further questions or comments. I will put the recommendation that Peter's report be received by the board. Do I have a mover, please, and seconder?
Right.
John moved. George second. Thank you. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? It's agreed. Thank you very much. And now I can move back to you, Jason. Thank you.
Kelly, so I've got a little presentation kind of slideshow thing just with some visuals for you guys. If I can get this to work. Cool. Awesome. Good. So the Turangi Customer and Visitor Support Centre work's progressing on the renovations, and painting is currently underway. Through discussion and brainstorming with Malama, we've decided on naming the 2 new meeting rooms, Takanu and Pihanga, and we kind of set it on these as they represent the Turangi area both physically and culturally. A range of artwork will be displayed that showcases the local area as well. Aiming for a space that has a strong emphasis on the pride that Turangi has for itself. Work is also underway regarding the exterior signage of the building, and this will include utilising the 2 currently empty signage frames that are out the front on the corner of Pihanga and Turangi-Tongariro, and also on the side of the centre on Pihanga Road. The good news is through working with the community engagement team, especially Libby and Malama, we've been able to relocate the assets that were left from the departure of the Activity Centre, particularly the display table. By working together, and we just kind of thought it was essential that this asset was able to have a continuous use and appreciation from the Taupō District. And the table has now found a new home at Mine Junction in Taupo. And also a big thank you as well to Rob's team for facilitating the transportation of the table up to Mine Junction. When it comes to customer stats for February, we had an 18% increase in foot traffic, if my math is right, which is dodgy at times. So, and that's likely due to dog registrations and rates and that sort of thing. And there has been a decrease in queries asking if we're a council, so that's been quite nice. For service requests, barking dogs are our usual main complaint there, but also damaged footpaths from the fibre installation that's been going around town. I've had quite a few people come in lately just questioning that, but again, Julie Gordon's teams and those are on it, and it's a great, real fast response. We've also filled our vacant spot, so we're back to full staff, which is great, which means more available to the community. As well as I've had no further updates from security regarding the congregation of use near the library. So that seems to have died down a bit, which is awesome. What else do I have? Cool. And the two Turangi projects are progressing along nicely. However, Malama will be able to provide more in-depth updates regarding those. Yeah.
So can I just quickly interject? The Turangi Community Sports Facility is now green.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and apart from that, just in talks of comms about getting something put out that we discussed at the last board meeting regarding trying to get people from the community to come into council and talk about things, putting on Facebook. But I have noticed there's actually been a kind of a bit of a decrease in Facebook posts about council as opposed to actually coming and seeing us. So everything is looking up at the moment. And that is it from a community service and support side of things.
Clint, if I may, I wonder if we could, sorry, Jason, could you just throw that back up again, please?
Yeah.
Just thought there's some people will know, some won't, because they're involved in the steering group. So if I quickly just rattle through the track centre. So the steering group met this morning, and Councillor Mac if you could maybe jump in if I miss the track building. So that's the steering group met. There's some scoping work been done, and a consultant's been engaged to have a feasibility study complete by April, Councillor Mac? Or is it June?
June.
Thank you. The Kapoa Park playground upgrades, so that's moving at a pace, and there'll be some signage going up and some comms going up to start talking to the community. I know Malamar's already had some conversations with some of the kids in town, so I think there's some cool photos kicking around of that somewhere. And the Turangi-Tongariro Park community sports facility, so council approved an increased budget on that last council meeting, so that's going through some negotiations with the contractor to get a fixed price so we can move forward. So I don't know, councillor or anyone else on the steering group, if I missed anything, but that's just a bit of an update.
Kia ora, John.
Can I just question? So it's great to see that the eyesight and the service centre is now being upgraded, or we knew that we were going to do some improvements. We did talk a while back. I know you got the 2 officers, but you were talking about engagement with the community through coming in, whether it's to complain or whatever. I still think with these 3 new projects, there will have to be a focal point that people come to and actually physically see what's happening. I really would like it to be in that building. I think you've got everything in there. You'll have the staff who know what's going on, and I just feel it'll be a feel-good place. And also with us on media, social media, we would be able to send people to that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. Then you're ideally trying to make that eyesight building just a more of a central hub that the locals can come to find out information on what the council's doing, etc.
Because the thing is, there will be a lot of engagement now to do with the play park and the track centre going forward. So there has to be somewhere physical, if they haven't got computers, etc., where they will be able to come in and actually, voice their opinions.
Through the chair. Jason, there was another conversation that we had earlier when Zach was prior to his departure, and that was around getting some infographics, which is similar to what John, Councillor Mac, has already alluded to, and that is that we were trying to get Joe Public to come in and see what's happening there, but have a succinct capture of that moment. So even if it's just photos of the ground being broken or something being done in that space, just so that people can see the journey occurring. That's what it was predominantly about. And also allowing the public access to you guys so that should they have questions, they know who to speak to. It was about also maintaining this, we are on the outside dealing with the public. They use social media as a space to engage with us. And at the same time, we can then direct them to go and have a conversation with you. So it was sort of like a wraparound service, I suppose, we were trying to provide for the public. So that's what, I totally support what Councillor Mac has just said. So if we could get that infograph done as well, so that we can show the progress on the projects that we've done, that would definitely be something that I'd see or envisage as being in the eyesight centre as well, because I think it's just a, immediate hit in the face of what you've achieved and what's coming.
That's better.
Yeah, got it. George.
I can talk to Malama about that as well, and see what we can do from an engagement point of view as well.
Can I just, and then I'm throwing another one in here, and I have no issue with this, but obviously when people phone the service centre now, they phone the Taupo number. Now, I understand that's probably to do with, being a centralised point. I do get a lot of people, though, contact me saying, I don't know why I need to phone Taupo. Now, I'm not saying we're going to change that, but I do think when they're talking to Taupo people, they don't know where some of the roads are. I sort of had a bit of a thing with this the other day. And I just feel, again, if we're going to keep things local, I'm not saying necessarily that number, but I do think maybe people who phone them back could be from Turangi.
Yeah, that's something I'll talk to the contact centre about. Because there is a dedicated I know there is a dedicated line for Turangi in the contact centre. So yeah, I have a chat with the contact centre regarding that.
Any further comment or question regarding Jason's report? Then I'll move the recommendation that the board receive that report. I have a mover and a seconder, please. Donna moves, sorry, Rob second, thank you. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? That's agreed, thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Jason. Monthly update now, community engagement, Libby.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, I think we've got, sorry, that random noise. I think it might be from one of the members who's just joined. So sorry if there's a bit of interference there.
Yes,
Sorry.
yes,
Oh, kia ora
I've
noa.
just joined. Thanks.
Oh.
I've just joined.
Kia ora. Hey, I'm going to pass over to Ma, as I kind of did last month, for her to give an update. But I just want to reflect on one of the things that we're hearing today is around kanohi ki te kanohi engagement, with a theme of really simple, easy to understand messaging. And it's really cool to hear that, because that's kind of where we're going, a bit of that direction. And Ma will expand on this a bit more around some of the things she's been doing, having hui with tamariki, which is really cool, some of the younger members of our rohe, but also just changing things up in terms of how we are collecting feedback. So we in the past have we've tried to do things online, but we're switching things up a little bit to make sure that everyone has a chance to have their say, whether that's in person or writing on a piece of paper and giving that to us. We just want to make sure that everyone is able to share their views in the best way possible. So I'll pass over to Ma, and then happy to answer any questions off the back of that. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Libby. Kia ora koutou. I've had a very busy 5 weeks, to be honest, but it's been fantastic already. And I'd like to think, following on from what Jason was saying about the 18% increase in foot traffic in the eyesight, could well be because I'm in there now. Because it seems like since I went in the paper, every senior citizen in Turangi has been in to meet me, which has been fantastic. And they're very excited about my role being introduced to Turangi. They think it's a really awesome thing for the community. So yeah, I'd like to think that I could put my finger up for that increase in foot traffic. And yeah, so I've had a couple of things going on. So I'm really just touching on the main things that have been happening for me and the community, and one which of course is most at the forefront is Te Kapoa Park. So the engagements for that are well underway, and it has been so exciting. So I've already visited 3 of the 4 kohanga reo within the rohe, and I've also been into Tongariro school. And I've got to be honest with you, the kids are so excited. It's been really hard to just go in there for a short amount of time, thinking that I could leave a class within 20 minutes because they're just so full of ideas and excitement. So that's wonderful, because they've given so much feedback on things that we as adults don't really see or think about. So I've come away already with quite a lot of feedback. Obviously, I've still got one more engagement to do, and that's with Te Koro Hirangi. They're away on school camp this week, so I'm booked in to be there with them on Wednesday of next week. And then once I've done that, I'll be able to put together some really good information, I think, for Pete, the project manager, because what I've been engaging in with the kids is the play types. So the different types of play that they'd like to see in the park. And I've got to be honest with you, top of the list is water play. That is all they want to see, is water, water and more water, and barbecues. The request for barbecues has just totally blown me away. So that, I think those kinds of things are what we're going to seriously look at, because that's what's going to make the parks really well utilised by all of the community. And I think it's what's going to keep them in really good condition if people are using them a lot. So I think we're on track with that. And I think touching on what John was talking about in terms of people being able to come and give feedback, because we know quite well that not everybody uses social media or even computers. So when the comms team are going to put out, I think actually probably this week, the information for Te Kapoa Park feedback, we've actually put on there that they'll be able to come and do that with us in the eyesight as well. So, you know, we need to make sure that we're covering all aspects of every person and how they are best to give their feedback. So, yeah, thank you for touching on that too, John, because that is really important. So that pretty much is where we're at with Te Kapoa Park. I guess the only other thing that I really would like to say is that having already the relationship with the likes of Jeff Bennett and Te Takinga from Ngāti Turangi-Tukua has made things so good for me in terms of being able to speak with them, go to Jeff's house on my way to work at the last minute to be able to have a kōrero about different things has been invaluable to me. And so I'm really appreciating them as well. So I just needed to mention that. The other thing on the list, which has already kind of been touched on, is the Recreation and Activity Centre. So we did have our first hui, which I was involved in 2 weeks ago, and that included some of the TTCB members, council reps, Turangi-Tukua whānau, and we had Danny from RSL, who are the consultants that have been brought on to undertake feasibility for the centre. We had some really good discussions around what we think and feel the facility needs to be and needs to look like. And out of that has come a really awesome opportunity whereby Danny, myself, and 2 other council reps are going to be welcomed at Hirangi Marae this Sunday at their monthly marae hui. And I think it's a really important step, in my view anyway, in order for us as the council to be able to continue with projects that are going to be happening in our community going forward. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to. And obviously from there, Danny will then start conducting meetings with various groups in the community and key people, just to be able to start painting a bit of a clearer picture around what the facility can and should look like. So that's where things are at for me in terms of the track centre. The other cool thing that has happened is I am now based in the Safer Turangi headquarters once a week, every Wednesday. I was in there today, obviously, from 10 till 2. And I just think it gives a good council presence within the community. People will often feel a lot more at ease to just come in there, sit, have a kōrero and a cup of coffee and a piece of reo and a bread, which I baked freshly for the ladies this morning. And it's a really awesome space. And I just think the more that it can be utilised, the better it is for the town as well as for us. Tomorrow I am doing an interview on Tuwhareto FM. So I will be mentioning that to the community, you know, just so that they know I'm there. They're free to come in if there's any issues they'd like to talk about. And Safer Turangi will also be sharing that on their Facebook page. So it's just about getting it out there so people know that I'm now on the ground and I'm here to be able to listen or help with any issues or concerns they might have. And lastly, because obviously I don't just deal with Turangi, so Southern Lakes, so the likes of Pukawa, Kuratou, Whareroa, Omori. In the last 3 weeks, I've been out and visited, sat with some of the key residents who do amazing mahi out there in their pieces of paradise. So I've been able to talk with them and listen to some of their concerns, their issues, their questions. Obviously, I don't know all the answers right now, but it's great for me to be able to start chipping away at some of those. And just actually to be able to meet the people out there who do so much stuff behind the scenes that we should be really grateful for as council. But yeah, so as you can see, since our last hui, I've had a lot going on. I'm really loving the role at this stage, and still meeting people every other day. So it's awesome. Thank you. That's me. No waiata this week.
Kia ora, Ma. That's a very awesome report. You've obviously hit the ground running and been extremely busy to have covered all of that in your short time with us. Do you have any comments, questions? Yes, I see Rob's hand up and John's. Would you go Rob first? Please?
Yeah, can you hear me there?
Kia ora, Rob.
Yeah, kia ora. Just a question about those barbecues. We as a board, we're looking at putting a barbecue up at one at Omori and one over at Motuopa as a trial, and then we were going to progress to bringing one into town. I guess this goes to John. What happened to that that progress on those barbecues, John?
I don't actually know, Rob. I'll have to follow that one up and come back to the next board meeting on that.
Yeah, I know it went as far as the parks as logistical, but that was our progress, and we were looking at doing it to Kapoa. So I don't know if we go around about the other way and do it at Kapoa and then go out, but yeah, we ear tagged the Motuopa and Omori because the communities there would have policed it a bit better, and then we were going to bring one into town at the park, possibly around the pool area. So yeah, that'd be great if you could follow that up. This one's for you, Ma. In terms of, I see you've been doing a lot of work with the kids, which is awesome. I think they'll have good feedback as to terms what they want, but they'll be not the only users of that park. I've talked to a few of our elderly, and a few of them are looking at exercise stations. I don't know if you've been to Mucket too, but there's like little exercise stations they got right next to the sea there. I think there's about 7 or 8 machines. That would be great for our elderly that like to walk, and that would be closer into town. So if we could maybe look at that as an option also.
Yeah, Kapoa. That has been raised also by some of the tamariki, believe it or not, for their nannies and koros. And they also wanted soft seats for their nannies and koros.
Okay. Yeah, very cool. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob.
Hey, Ma, busy. You might have actually helped towards this. So we, a long time ago, were given a donation for the children of Turangi. That donation still stands. We have talked about it a couple of times, but not done a lot with it. I'm just putting forward a suggestion now, because it was for the children, that between you and council, you come up with something through the children that will actually become for that donation, so that it can actually go into that park and be a, what it was designed for. That's just my suggestion.
Thank you, John. I think that has been mentioned to me, a donation from a family. Yep. Great idea. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou. Do we have any more comments or questions for Ma?
Yes, Chair, I just got a text saying that the meeting with Turangi-Tongariro this Sunday will not be happening due to COVID. So the marae has been closed during this time.
Kia ora te takinga.
Kia ora tak. Any further comments?
Just one thing, just with this Ma working in the Safe Turangi, would it be maybe good to put it out on our comms and maybe our Facebook page, just alerting people to that fact that she'll be there too, working?
Aye. Thanks, Rob.
Good idea. And just in relation to that, Donna and I met with Te Reipa yesterday for our catch-up meeting, and he also commented, Ma, and was very positive about you being in there once a week as well. So great, good to hear. Okay, if there's no further comment, then we'll put the recommendation that the community engagement report be received by the board. Can I have a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it.
Oh, Paula, thank you. And Rob, second, thank you.
Yeah.
All in favour?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? That's agreed. Thank you very much. Thank you for your input, people. And we move on to our members' report now. And so I'll just take them randomly. If you've got a report for us today, can you please just indicate, and we'll go from one to the other as if we were going around the table.
Clint, I don't actually have a job. I don't have one, so
I will have a catch up with you, Paula. It's not necessarily around specific jobs. It's anything you might have got involved in the month, and quite often you will have nothing to report back. So there's no obligation for a report. But if you've been in conversation or had a meeting with someone, then that's your opportunity just to get back to us. But I'll have a catch up with you one-on-one.
Okay, no worries. That'll be good. Thanks.
For the next meeting.
Thank you.
Kia ora, Paula.
I think the only thing I will mention is, and we talked about it, is the 3 projects, the big ones that we've got, which are now all in green. I do think we can't overstate how important this is for us now. And you're actually going to physically see these starting very shortly, some of them. So I just think for the community who always say, well, nothing happens, we need to be out there now saying, look, it takes a while to get here, but we're actually here now, and you're going to see some good things happening.
John, just on that, John, are we going to do that fence up down the park before the building goes up or after? It'd be advisable before.
Do you want me to talk about that, John? Yeah, so we had the meeting this morning. So what we've done, even though the steering group is only about the building, we've actually now incorporated the security and the lights in that project. And yes, we did talk about that as being really important that we actually get on top of the fencing issue. But we've also talked about maybe we're going to have to put out some comms between us and Turangi-Tongariro and the owners of the park to say this is just not acceptable. We have to now get really quite strong with this to say we're going to spend a lot of money here, and we as a community have to now look after it. So everything will be done hand in hand now. But yeah, it was something that came up this morning.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Thank you. Donna, your hand up.
Hey, whānau, just Clint and I had a meeting with Te Reipa yesterday. One thing he was inquiring about was the internet at the library. Is it possible to have is that on 24/7?
Perhaps I can help there, Clint. No, it's not on 24/7 as far as I'm aware, because of the antisocial behaviour it encourages. So I think it's turned off at a certain time. Maybe Jason's got the timing, but no, it's not 24/7.
Yeah, he was under the impression that might be one of the reasons why we've got a lot of the kids uptown, at ungodly hours. So I said I'd inquire about that. We discussed about the bike issue in town. Yeah, I got schooled a bit about not driving the side by side when we're in front of the car because it's not registered. So you got people that just don't know. But what else were we looking at? Another thing that he suggested for everyone to think about because of the issues that we're having with bikes in town was because they're going to be, he suggested that we think about where could they go, because like in my family, I've got mohos that have got little quad bikes. The kids have got quad bikes, we've got quad bikes. And where can they go around town to do this? Is there a place for them, or can we look at getting a place for them to use? Because not all of them have trailers where they can go out to the bush and use them as they're supposed to be used. So just something for everyone to think about, maybe. That's all I've got, thanks.
Kia ora, Donna. Te Rapa also brought up the issue of the bollards on some of the walkways again, and we've discussed that many times, and it does seem to be that there are still walkways. He didn't mention specific walkways, but walkways where bollards are either missing or easily driven through that we need to look at. And Te Rapa also, sorry for coming on the back of your report, Donna, but he also mentioned that he's had directive from higher up to be perhaps a bit more heavy-handed on the motorcycle issue around town, and that all motorcyclists are to be treated with the same in the same way, and with no softly. I gather he got instructions that he's to be tougher on these kids with the ability to confiscate equipment. So we'll see how that rolls out. But it did sound like there might be a step up in policing those problem bikes. Kia ora, Donna. George.
Kia ora whanau. So I just wanted to talk about the fact that we, Whareroa, were one of the lucky communities that had the opportunity of engaging with Libby and her team. So Libby and Ma both came out here to Whareroa to have a chat with our unofficial mayor, Steve Sanderson, and myself. We had a really wonderful catch up, and ultimately, look, I'll just be honest with everyone. Although Steve did have concerns, it was ultimately about just sitting down and having a cuppa. So if you sifted through everything that was talked about during the whole 3 hours, and that's how long the journey was, it was all about just sitting down, having a cuppa and seeing me. That's what it was about. So we really appreciate the fact that Libby and Ma were there. The information that Steve shared with them both, I think, was invaluable. Also for myself as well, it schooled me on some of the things that have occurred out here in Whareroa. But ultimately, it was a really positive engagement. So from that perspective, you know, to see the devolution of decision-making as in it's coming out to the community and allowing us to be engaged in that space is really awesome. So I take my hat off to the engagement team. You've done a really wicked introduction to us out here, and we're appreciative of it all. I also just wanted to speak to that detail as well, because I met with Omori and Kuruto residents, as well as some of the Pukawa ones, who have encouraged me, which I've done through Libby, to they wanted to meet with Jason and Ma because of the fact that they're both new, and being Omori Kuruto, they've taken ownership of Jason. So as far as they're concerned, he belongs to them. And with our Rotoaira whānau, well, we all know that Ma, you belong to them. So yeah, it's been wonderful from that perspective, and just having those faces that are local has actually encouraged further community participation and engagement. So from that perspective, totally it's worked. Thank you very much for what you've done. I just also wanted to bring up the fact that I met with the Māori Community Hall and also with the Residents Association, and that was in regards to them and the want for a discussion around the hall moving forward and the tenure around their lease. And I believe that'll come to the board at some point in the near future. The other thing that's occurring in our neck of the woods is the Takanu Stream committee that was previously in existence. As you all know, in November of last year, we were voted in to be a new committee. And what I can say is that we've secured some funding from Genesis and from Waikato Regional Council, and some work has commenced on the stream, and it's the killing of the willow trees. So we're doing it in sections, and the first section is up by Piripeka down towards the bend of the oasis, and those willows are currently being poisoned, and there's no detrimental impact on the environment, so that's really wonderful. And we can't do anything post-April, so the funding that we'll secure between now and October will be for the continuation of that work from October through to May next year. And that's predominantly what I've had this week. But the one thing, and I hope you're still there, Libby, the one thing that did come through from all of the engagements that I've had is exactly as you stated, the community appreciate kanohi ki te kanohi and a cup of tea. But again, thank you very much. That's me.
Kia ora, George. And Tuck, just before I come back to you, can I ask, go to John Red for comment, please?
Yeah, Donna, can I just come back to you a second? Did you want a piece of work doing on that in terms of the dirt bikes and things like that? Is that I can't hear you on mute, sorry.
Can you say that again, please?
So do you want a piece of work doing around, you talked about the motorbikes, and is there somewhere else they can go? Is that a piece of work you want us to look at, or was that a comment?
Piece of work to look at, please.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, John. Takanga.
Kia ora whānau. I was just trying to follow up, Chair, wondering if the letters went out from the last meeting, a number of letters where I asked if we could write some letters. I was just wondering if they went out.
That was probably on my back, and I have not written any letters.
Oh, okay then. So we'll just carry on with that one, Chair. First of all, I just appreciate our council, our councillors and our mayor for the leadership that they did in regards to supporting the build at Turangi-Tongariro Park, Chair. So I'd like to personally thank our councillors and our mayor for supporting us in our community and our district, for approving the funds required to carry on with this mahi in this kaupapa. Was in a hui the other day with UCOL and also with MSD, and actually Marama was there as well, and it's around looking at the gaps that we've been in, that there's a partnership happening between UCOL and Turangi-Tongariro in regards to between 15 to 20 of our young people were engaged in building in trades. It's a big component in our community because Tongariro School provides a trades academy. And a lot of these young people, when they leave school, just trying to find where they go. So there's a big number of them that attended this course. And now, because it's coming to an end, it's like, now, where do we go from here? So I'm thinking it actually requires a big, like a bit more, needs a bit more of a bigger picture around this, Chair. One of the big issues we have in Turangi is transport, and to then get our kids to go, where do they go from after this? But it's providing many more opportunities, not just in the trades. It could be out in the environment. MSD actually provides a package where young people can go out and work within our taiao. So it's about a whole overall approach in how we can be come together, the likes of DOC or TDC, maybe partnership within the taiao. I mean, you've got, if we work with iwi and hapu and MSD, this collective approach will be able to just provide another door for our young people, because we just need to be a bit more creative and look at the bigger picture. So I'm just hoping that we as a board might have some part in finding solutions for our young people, and and so that was a good little hui to have with MSD. I think from memory, I think they said there are about 35 young people on benefits at the moment in Turangi, which has dropped. However, that's only those that apply for benefits. So we know that there are some that are just at home. Another thing I just want to.
Sorry, could I just jump in there? Sorry to interrupt
you,
but and Libby might have a bit more information on this in terms of dealing with Amplify, but I was party to a conversation on the issue you raised, particularly around the ability to get driving licenses and things like that for some of those people you're talking about. I know they're Amplify are active in this space, and I think they may be coming in the next month or so, Libby, in terms of doing their quarterly reports to the board. So I suggest maybe that would be a good place to start with that conversation, because I know they're actively trying to find some solutions to that.
I appreciate that, and I think what it is though, it's that whole overall approach that needs to be looked, Mr. Chair, not just one part, and so I think we as a board can have a role there. Just also by note, I'm not too sure who to thank, but I believe it could be the policy team. Reading through council minutes and notes, I see a change of clause in the Māori engagement piece where it's taken away my pet peeve, the ye nā clause, which previously stated around, yes, we need to engage in Māori, but we don't really need to. In the second paragraph, so I was like, man, it always frustrated me. So seeing that clause now within council papers, it's a whole change of framework and the wording, and it looks really good. So I'm not too sure. I think it's a policy team. If it is, whoever did it anyway, it's a fabulous piece. I'd like to thank them very much. Who was it, John?
Oh, I think it was probably Shani.
Oh, there you go. So I like to congratulate Shani, Chair, because it's even gone more personal too, because in that space, like before, it's just like, oh, it's just the Māori we got to engage in. It's just more of a tick box exercise by staff. But now it's getting more personal. Like, actually, we're dealing with Turangi Tukua, or we're dealing with this group or that group, or with the iwi in this part. And so that's what I appreciate more, Chair, and that's what it's about. It's that kanohi ki te kanohi. It's about identifying who we're engaging with. So definitely thank Shani for that. Also, Mr. Chair, coming up, I'm not too sure if Gareth still online? No,
I don't think. I think he's gone. Actually, he's been busy today.
Oh well, I'd like a favour from our CE, Mr. Chair. Coming up is the International Women's Day, and to be fair, Turangi Tukua, our local hapu here, in our local community of Turangi Township, it is surrounded by beautiful maunga pihanga, quite matriarchal, standing in our district, and what a way it would be to acknowledge our women and celebrate our kaimahi, the women, the staff that we have, our women's staff, and perhaps maybe we can ask Mr. C, perhaps our wahine might be able to take an hour off somewhere to just go pamper themselves. But these are just thoughts, Mr. Chair. I just want to try to find a creative way where our women can just be celebrated. But if not, Mr. Chair, I'd like another note to be written to all of our our women that in Taupō District Council that make a significant contribution to our community. And so I'd like to acknowledge and celebrate them during this International Women's Day on the 8th, I believe. Yeah, but that's my report there.
So just to show my feminine side, so I know that there's quite a few events going on. Unfortunately, most of them are in Taupo, but we actively encourage our teams. I was invited, but for some reason I'm not going. And so we actively encourage our teams to, our female members of our team to attend those events, because I totally agree with you.
There's actually two people. There's my birthday's on International Women's Day, and I think Christine, the deputy mayor.
Okay.
Yeah, the two of us. We're a year apart, but our birthdays are on International Women's Day. Just like to put that one on.
Mr. Chair, can I just also say thank you to Te Takinga for his comments about the Māori engagement section. It was actually David Ramaka who worked on that. I just had to clarify that. Thank you.
Should have took it, Shani. Should have took it. Can I just go, Clint? So a couple of things on the Wi-Fi. Mike Barry's put out that actually there's going to be a free Wi-Fi in the whole of the town centre. So I don't know whether that will alleviate the problem or make more. We'll have to wait and see, but it will stop them congregating maybe around about the library. And just the other one about the police and actively with the motorbikes, are they going to put out communication? Are they, because my issue again with the police is that they're not engaging through the normal channels that we do. And I understand that they can't put out social media like we do. But if they want us to put something out, I'm more than happy to put something out to say that this is going to be a change in what we're doing, as long as they're happy to give us the wording. I think we need to put that out. It's better than on a one-by-one basis, them going out and catching people. I think they might find a lot of people will actually stop doing what they're doing if they know that there will be consequences.
Good idea. Would you like me to get back to Te Rapa and see if we can come up with some wording? Yep.
That sounds like a good idea.
Okay, thank you, board members. Any other reports, comments to add to that session? Yes, Rob?
Yeah, just a couple of things here. Just with our frisbee golf whānau, I think I've found a solution for us, and I've been meeting with the golf course, and where they're looking at putting up a course, and that'll help them with their revenue, especially over these pressured times. So I'll progress as progress comes. But we're going to be having a meeting with the sort of team leaders of that side and the golf course, RAF and them. I had a bit of an informal meeting with the police, and yes, again they're having problems with those motorbikes, and they're still cutting through these alleyways. We keep on talking about the alleyways. I guess it's like the barbecues. It's another thing that sort of might have ended up on that back burner, and we haven't followed through with it. So we might need to bring it up each time just to get something done, because the main reason that was taken out, as I said at previous meetings, was that the wheelchair access for our wheelchair people weren't being able to get through those areas. That's why they were taken down. But I think the board have now moved where we've found the urgency now to actually get some barriers up there. We are only just waiting for a bad accident to happen. We've had a couple of accidents down those alleyways where two motorbikes have actually hit each other, but we've had cars going down there. There was a skinny little car that used to zip up and down, that got burnt out. So there is a track record of them being misused, and as I said, it's just waiting for a time where there'll be a person hit, and then we'll be the ones that are looking, why didn't you do something, or why didn't you follow it up? So I think it may be something we need to keep hammering away at.
Sorry, Bob. Sorry, through you, Chair. I just wonder if I could just ask a question, Bob. Are you talking about the closure of the alleyways, which you know is a long-term painful process, or is this about just putting some bollards in to stop the activity?
No, yeah, we talked about that. That's right, John. But then we went to the bollard because of the way that trying to recassette it was such a real hassle, and it was going to take a long time. So we were looking at bollards, and there's quite a few. I think just offhand there's seven walkways. That's not including the bigger areas. I've been also talking to a number of shopkeepers about that charging point. I know that it was brought up previous in the meeting, but a lot of them were in favour of the charging areas going up in terms of traffic and possible revenue coming their way. As we know that they're also suffering in town, and I would say it was probably 70-30 in favour, and one busker who was in favour also. Yeah, I just thought I'd just do a small canvass of the shops, just informal talk to them and see what their feelings were. I don't know if George brought up that matariki using the lights, George, with our host city.
No, Rob, I didn't.
Sorry?
I didn't.
Oh, okay. I don't know if we've got enough time, but but I think it's something we can put on the agenda. It was George that came up with an idea that we lit some lights out from whareroa, the candle ones. I just said, watch out for the fire, make sure we got a good wind, and just setting them out, and just and the candles representing hope for their cities and hope for our own people. And I thought, what a really good idea. George and I will rack our heads and probably put something on paper, George, and work it out, because I think it's good, and it's keeping our host city. We haven't been really in contact with them, so it'd be a nice sort of gesture, and it just brings them back into the fold. Just normal resident inquiries, re trees, planting of trees, and maintenance. They've seen watering trucks come around, which is cool, especially over these hot periods. So the residents are quite happy in terms of that. Spoke to a number of residents in Motuopo who are very, very happy with their gardens being rebarked, and also their playgrounds being rebarked. So they've seen a lot of progress in their realm, and I think we may be hopefully going over to Omori and doing those outer areas and just tidying up their areas. I've heard residents from more the kids from Omori and Kurito just asking about their tennis courts, when they'd be repainted and stuff like that, which I'll take on board and sort out myself. What's on this other side? Recourse. Oh, just with Tux, I also have been speaking, talking with the guys who've been doing that building course. There was a employer came over to see them from the new energy complex that's going to be built over in Taupo, and he was saying that there'll be jobs here for them. Big problem is I know that Winds is trying to back them in terms of getting them into those jobs, but their biggest problem is license. To find someone that can actually drive them over. I think I spoke to one of them, and they said that I think Winds were going to come to the party and find a van for them to go over, but they needed a person with a full license, which none of them had. But I see now advertised on Tuwharetoa FM that there's a course coming from from that particular company that's willing them to put them through their site safe course, health and safety, also their license, and a couple of heights, working at heights and working in enclosed spaces. So those courses are actually going to be coming, I think, in March, if I remember hearing right on the radio station. So it may be a good transition for those guys to move into that, and then they'll be hopefully prepped, ready to go into those courses, and that number of beneficiaries will come down again. And that's about it from me. Thank you.
Kia ora, Rob, thank you. Anything else to add? Okay, well, I'll get
I
someone.
think Jason's got his hand up.
Sorry, Jason. Hi.
Hey, just going back to the Wi-Fi that Amplify's put in, and want to extend out over the whole town. I believe it's turned off from midnight to 5:30 in the morning, just to dissuade anyone from congregating.
That's good to know, because Te Raupe did seem to think that they were on. It was on 24/7. So,
Midnight's a lot. You know,
Yeah.
who's going to be, or who should be uptown at that time of night using Wi-Fi? Maybe a bit of a corridor there, just to see if we can bring it back to a reasonable time to probably encourage town to, you know, when it's closed, it's closed, so that we won't have people milling around until 12 o'clock at night. Don't forget the pubs close at 11.
I think there's
pubs and kids and
Yeah,
I don't know,
I know.
if it's a good thing.
I think there's two parts to this. Sorry for you, Chair. There's the library Wi-Fi, which I'm not sure. I think that must shut off earlier. That was the initial question. The Amplify Wi-Fi, is that actually operational now, Jason?
Is from the eyesight,
Right.
but the range of it is extremely limited. So basically from our counter to the bus shelter.
Yeah. So I understood, I thought the library turned off around 10, but I'll double check on that.
Yeah, I can talk to Pam from the library and double check.
Perfect. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
okay, thank you very much. We'll put the recommendation that we receive a members' report. So I have a mover and seconder, please. George moved, Donna second. Thank you very much. All in favour?
Aye.
Sorry, against? Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for your attendance. I now am going to move that public be excluded as we move into confidential business. I'll need a seconder for that motion, please.